We have diligently been working to support this initiative to bring the awareness necessary to eradicate and illuminate the school to prison pipeline. We all know that insecurities are loud and can be consistent in the event that we don't do something to change what is actually happening in our schools. Unfortunately, African American boys are being highly penalized for youth behavior in classrooms, talking out loud, being a little bit mischievous, but unfortunately, it should not warrant them to be suspended in such high numbers that they are. It is important that we are intentional about changing the trajectory of our youth being funneled at a high capacity into the school to prison pipeline. How do we do it? It takes all of us. It takes all of us to make note that our children are just children. They are not these individuals that are portrayed in all of social media. Some of our children are mischievous, but that does not make them criminals. So join the Sunshine Education Coalition by taking the time to educate yourselves and others about the school to prison pipeline.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to week 4 of the Sunshine Education Coalition's forum. This week we're discussing embracing excellence, and as you see before you, we have some excellent young people from Hillsborough County who are going to be discussing today various topics in terms of, especially related to what they feel about school or how they see the path of school and their education going right now. So to tell you a little bit first about the Sunshine Education Coalition, we are a grassroots organization, and we are comprised primarily of teachers and educators and everyone who is in the business of eliminating and eradicating the school to prison pipeline. And of course, the primary people who it focuses on are our children, especially our males, but specifically also our children of color. So we want to welcome everyone this evening. First of all, we'd like to start with our high school students. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Let's start with Ari. How are you?
I'm good. So, my name is Ari. I do attend Armwood High School. I am enrolled into the collegiate program, which is basically where I take classes, earn college credits towards an AA degree, which shortens my time when I actually graduate and go to college.
Excellent. And thank you. All right, Janique.
My name is Jonique. I go to Joel F. Sumner High School, and right now I'm in the ACE program, where I pretty much have to take 7 ACE classes, which will give me the ACE diploma and make it to where I can get into any Ivy League college.
Okay, can you just real quickly tell me what the ACE program is?
It's pretty much Cambridge, like it's courses from England that they brought over here to the United States. And I don't know the full details about it, but I do know that if I do these are classes that I'm taking, like college level classes. And I know that once I finish these classes, then I get this diploma that makes it to where I could go to these schools that'll take that diploma.
That's awesome. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And finally, we have Sam. Sam, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, briefly.
Well, I'm Sunny Rivers, and I am a twin. I go to Jennings Middle School. I'm in 6th grade, and I'm planning on going off to college and becoming a lawyer.
Excellent. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit about yourself. And my name is Denise Thomas. I'm the SEC co-chair, and I'm a teacher as well. I teach in middle school, 8th grade reading, and we're going to get into how important that is and why that's necessary for your success. So first of all, let's just start off. How was school today? I mean, how are you feeling in general about your education so far at your current school? So let's start with Johnny. Can tell me.
I think that today was a pretty decent day. I would say it's been better than some of the other days in the past.
Okay, all right. Ari, how was your day, or how do you are you taking your education so far at your current school?
It's been all right. The first like part of the year was like super duper shaky. Still is a little bit now, but I think the school is getting a little bit better.
Mhm. Okay, all right. Sam, how was the school year so far? Don't forget that you're on mute.
Well, the school year so far is fine, except for the fights when they fight like bears. But my education is fine. I've been doing great, and there's a lot of substitutes happening so far, and a lot of the teachers are coming out, and yeah.
Okay, great. And that leads me. I'm so glad that you brought that up, Sam, because that leads me to the next general question I was going to ask was how, in terms of substitutes and your core courses. So tell me a little bit about. Do you have an instructor in each of your core courses? And by core courses, I mean your would be it would consist of language arts, social studies, science, mathematics. So at this present time, in this school year, how are you in terms of your core subjects, and do you have a steady teacher that's there? So Ari, will start with you.
Majority of my classes I do. I do have one teacher that is about to leave soon, and then other than that, there hasn't really been many. I know when COVID cases went up, a lot of the people started catching it, so you would just see sub after sub after sub for like long periods of time, which was kind of rough because when you go to ask them a question, they can't answer those questions for you because they don't know.
Mm-hmm. Great. Jonique, tell me about it.
Um, I would say that I've had pretty steady teachers. My only problem would be with my chemistry teacher, is because like even though like there would be a large percent of the time that he wasn't there, and when he was there, he wasn't teaching us. He would pretty much just put these readings and stuff on Canvas, and that's how we would learn what we need to learn.
Okay. And so, so while we're here with you, Jonique, this question. So are you feel you're not feeling very strong in that particular subject? Is what you're saying due to the lack of the teacher being there present?
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that, Sam. What about your core teachers present, or you're having some difficulties with or absences with them?
Well, all my core teachers are there. My math teacher's there, my science teacher's there, but my reading teacher, we went from her leaving to a sub to another sub, and now I don't know if it's the permanent teacher, but we have another teacher again.
Okay. And I will say this as an educator, it is very important that students do have their have access to their core teachers, because those are the subjects where they primarily get tested on, and especially when it comes to reading, you want to be able to be strong in that particular area so that you can be strong in your other subject areas. So that's important, and I just wanted to know how you all were feeling about that. And then speaking of things ways that you feel as well, tell me, do you feel, has a key question here? How do you feel primarily safe within your school? And Janique, let me start with you.
I would say that at my school, um, I don't really feel that safe because in the past this year, there have been times where people have threatened to shoot up the school, or they've there have been a lot of fights and just people getting jumped for no reason. And like even at our school, our one of our APs got jumped. And if they don't put their hands on an adult, like somebody with that much authority, and just have no remorse about it, I can only imagine what they do to a student.
Hmm. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. Ari, what about your school? How do you feel at your school? Do you feel relatively safe?
Um, I kind of don't. We were just recently on lockdown. We were on lockdown for almost 3 hours because there was apparently a rumor about a video going around of boys walking on campus with guns, and then when we dismissed, we had to dismiss by class, so not even hallways, and it was a very slow and scary process because you didn't know what was happening. No one There was no details giving, like not much was said at all. And we do have like fights like here and there, like a just a lot of stuff going on that really shouldn't be happening.
Okay. Thank you. Sam?
Well, by myself, I feel safe, but a lot of students will say that they don't feel safe. Today, um, I can say just last week on Friday there was about 8 fights, and just today there was like 2 fights at the school.
Hmm. So what do you think? I mean, I know that Johnny, you were saying that you just people getting jumped for no reason. But I mean, what do you think? A lot of it is, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. I mean, what do you think might be the causes of it? And I wouldn't call any names or anything like that. But in terms of like, I know a lot of kids are have cell phones. Could it be social media? Could it be something that bring from the community? I mean, what do you think is sparking? And then also on top of that question, do you feel that it is being handled properly by the administration at your school?
I feel like if there is a cause of it, then the cause is rumors or somebody saying something that they shouldn't have said. And like when it comes to admin handling it, it depends on which AP is the one handling it because it has some APs that are no nonsense and they'll suspend them and that'll be the end of that. And there are some APs where they'll get like 2 days ISS and then they'll be right back to do it again.
Hmm. Okay. Ari, same question, Ari. So again, it's a two-part question. I mean, what could possibly be the causes? And again, what are adults doing to
So
rectify
I
the
think
situation?
part of that stuff does come from social media. When I'm listening to a lot of kids talk, I hear she said this and he said that. And then there's actually kids from other schools that have entered our campus, and you'll just see like resource officers looking for them. And then kids will just do things. And for the admin handling, they really do pick and choose because some kids that they feel like if they do something, they won't get in trouble, and it shows because they're still there doing the same things and being disruptive to the school environment. And they could get the least they'll probably get is some ISS. If it was that serious, then maybe OSS, but I rarely see people that I know that get in trouble a lot feel like, oh yeah, I'm going to get kicked out. I need to stop or something like that.
Johnny, I know you wanted to add on to your point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to that. That's something I see at my school too. Like a perfect example of that would be today in my English class. There's this girl who's constantly she'll come to class and then she'll stay for like a minute and then she'll walk out of class. And the teacher has given her multiple referrals and called up to the office and stuff like that, and just nothing has happened. And it's like I feel like there's these students who, at the beginning of the year or throughout the year, they get in good with a certain AP or they become friends with AP. And now it's like whenever they get in trouble, they'll get off with a slap on the wrist compared to other students who get like the max amount of punishment for doing the littlest thing wrong. I think it's unfair.
Hmm. Sam, thank you for so much for sharing that. Sam, again, let me repeat the question. So, what do you think might be the cause of the issues? And again, how do you feel that the administration is handling those things? Jason?
Well, I can say that there's kids in some of my classes they know they're in the wrong, but I don't know what it is, but the teacher doesn't do anything. Um And most of the things that happen are in social media or Facebook or things like Instagram, and people they will say, yeah, I think it's airdropping, and people will be airdropping inappropriate stuff mid time during class, disrupting the entire class, and then there'll be fights, like I already said, and everything will break down. Most of it comes through social media. Some comes through rumors. Some comes through students being bad, and then the teachers tell another teacher, and then our student just feels like they're being brought down, or the teachers are against them for no reason. But most of it starts off of social media.
Mm-hmm. And then so there's a so one of the questions I also asked, let's do a follow up with to that. So how does all of what you just said, you three express yourself very eloquently. How does it prevent you from being the best that you can be on a daily basis? So Ari, I'll start with you.
It's like it's distracting because one person, something happens and it gets through the whole school, and that you'll hear about that same thing throughout the whole day. And it's just like kind of annoying to have people coming up to you, and then you try and talk to somebody and they're like, "Oh, did you hear about this? All this stuff happened." It's just like, why is that happening?
Mm-hmm. Johnny?
I agree that it is very distracting, and it also, when something like that happens, it starts putting the APs on high alert. So it's like, oh, hey, can I go to the bathroom quick? Oh, we can't. We're in a lockout right now. Well, why are we in a lockout right now? Well, somebody just got in a fight, and they're trying to clear the area.
Mm-hmm. All right. And Sam, how does that those situations prevent you from being the best that you can be on a daily basis?
Because, like I said, when they be airdropping stuff, it will carry out through the entire day, like Ari said. And throughout the entire day, all you hear is, "Oh, did you hear what they said? Oh, yeah, did you know that happened?" And the fight, same thing. People talking about the fight, talking, "Oh, yeah, I got a video. Oh, I got a video." And they'll literally be talking about the same things over and over again. And sometimes it gets annoying. And when the kids are disruptive and disrespectful in class, then um it will disrupt the entire class. And then sometimes um sometimes, well, very little. I don't get my work done, but I do the work. But sometimes I don't get it done because the class is being disrupted and disruptful, so disrespect disrespectful to the teacher. Like today during the
Mm-hmm.
sub, everything went wrong because they weren't listening. Disrespectful. Um, they were cussing, getting out of their seats, and one kid even walked out the classroom.
Wow. Thank you, Trisha. Janique, were you going to add something, or you go ahead?
I just wanted to add that not only is it like distracting or it's all anybody's talking about, but at the same time, it's like even inside the classroom when there's something like that going on, now a teacher has to stop teaching and spend her time, trying to stop the fight or trying to get everybody together. Like not yesterday, but last week we were supposed to be taking a test, and the teacher couldn't even finish passing out the papers because she just had to keep stopping and tell people to stop talking and separating people and trying to get people off their phones. And it was like everybody was doing their own thing and nobody listened to the teacher, and the teacher was spending all her time trying to get everybody to just stop for one moment, and it was taken away from our education time.
Right, and that's a key thing for classroom management. Ari, are you going to add to that? Go ahead.
I want to add on to what she said. When things like that happen, it creates a hostile environment. And I feel like sometimes that influences other students to do it as well and think that it's okay. And that puts a lot of stress on the teacher. And sometimes those teachers, when they're stressed, frustrated, they put it out on us, which is just bad all in all. You have an upset teacher against a whole bunch of upset students, and all that just gets too chaotic and crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that as a teacher, I'm coming to you right now, Jenny. But as a teacher, I totally understand that because sometimes it'll be one thing that will throw off your entire day. So you come in with a pleasant attitude, and then once you have a disruptive class or disruptive students, the students that tear the class down. Now we are human beings, so we're gonna get upset, and you're trying not to transfer that energy onto the kids, but the kids feel it. And I love the fact that you're talking about it because it is true. It's a real thing that happens, and it's unfortunate. Jenny, go ahead and tell me what you're going to say. And then I'm going to ask you all another question. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to add that that's something I've noticed in all grades that the teacher if they have a problem with one class or there's something that happens in one class that makes them upset, they'll talk about it to all of their classes. So now the classes are comparing themselves to each other, or they'll go up to their friends like, hey, my class is better than yours, or hey, I heard that your class did da 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 da, you made the teacher also mad, or the teacher, they'll act out angrily towards the entire class, and then halfway through the period they'll be like, sorry guys, blah blah blah, I did this and it made me so mad. And I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
understand like they're humans and make mistakes and they get upset. It's just um it feels bad because like what will happen is they're still bent out their emotions and they'll explain like why they feel that way, but it feels bad when they start comparing your class or other classes to your class, like, oh, you guys are so much better than this period, they're constantly making me upset, or this period did this better.
Right, right. Understand that, and I think also too the it's an interesting dynamic how classes are. Some classes are 40, 45 minutes long, and so by the time you calm down, and the next group comes in, it's like, oh, but it's important for teachers to realize you got to calm it down because you got a little bit of space. Unfortunately, if things happen like literally at the end of one class and the very 5 minutes later, the next class begins, it's just like it just carries over. So I do apologize to you, if you're experiencing that. Now, another question is, so going back to all this, what can adults do to help you feel safer? If you had to just, start the school year off and then adults, me too, are in the classroom with you all. What can we do to make you all feel safer in school? What ideas do you have about that? Sam, let's start with you, Sam. Go ahead.
Well, maybe if they stop locking the bathroom, and because they start locking the bathroom, kids are getting angrier, and more kids start walking out of the classroom to go use the bathroom without permission. And since admin doesn't know they don't have permission, because they even stop checking for the little passes for when you leave class, they stop checking for that, and most teachers stop giving it out, and the students will just be walking out, and some students get in trouble because when they do check for passes and the teacher hasn't given it out, what does the student do? The admin might think that they left class or walked out. They start locking the bathrooms because there were fights in other grades, people doing things in the bathrooms that they shouldn't, writing on the walls, and then kids start jumping in the stalls while other people are using the bathrooms, and they're fighting in the classroom, all that. And all that, I'm thinking, where is admin? Because usually they're in the other hallway. They don't worry about the sixth graders. And everything broke loose when they started letting eighth grade in the sixth grade hallway. And that messed up a lot. So since in the eighth grade, there's a bunch of writing on the walls. There's more fights. There's more drama. Sixth graders are getting put in the eighth grade things. Yeah, so maybe if they had more admin, less teachers dropping out, and if maybe if they just listen to the teachers and listen to the students to what they had to actually say, and then actually follow through, yeah, that would help a whole lot.
That's very insightful, Sam. Thank you. That listening is key. Okay. Ari, tell me what you think. How can adults, how do all of us as adults help make you all feel safer at school?
So I pay attention to the school staff a lot because, like I said, I see a lot of different consequences for things like that. But they're late to a lot of things, like big things like that lockout And then like these fights, like they'll just, by the time these APs and administration gets there, the kids actually let them fight, and then the kids will break it up. But admin will be, they'll just so late. So a lot of students always talk amongst themselves. Nobody at that school is super duper quiet. Nothing's really a secret. I think that if administration was way more attentive to what these students are saying and watching behavior and just really monitoring the area, that things like that wouldn't happen. Because I see when I sometimes have my lunch periods, they have been having a lot of issues with like tardies and people skipping. But I'm looking at big groups of APs in one area, and there's students all over the school roaming, skipping, and then they got to lock bathrooms because they're doing things they're not supposed to be doing in there, which affects the students who also have good behavior, because now we can't use the bathrooms. Now there's not enough supervision, and now there's too much happening, and they can't get it under control.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Jonique. Yep. What can adults do to make you all feel more comfortable, more safe at school?
Okay, so the first thing would go towards the administration is call out your counterparts if you see them choosing favorites, because if you notice that there's an AP that's buddy buddy with one kid, and that child is constantly acting up or getting away with it, and they have another kid who gets dress coded for their shorts being a bit too short, and they give them like 2 days ISS plus lunch detention. Call them out on that. Call them out on them being unfair and how that's not right and how they should be reported for that. Because yes, it hurts to see the APs choosing sides, but it hurts even more when you see other APs watching this happen and not saying anything. Like the way they tell us, you see something, you say something. It feels like they should be required to follow that exact same thing. Like the way they see APs either like talking down their student or choosing sides on their student, they should say something to the principal or whoever is the higher up. Like how when we see somebody bullying someone else, we're supposed to go to them and tell them that so and so is being a bully. And then the second thing would go to the teachers, where if like a student is being like disrespectful in class to other students, this isn't all teachers, this is just to the teachers that I like this. If you see a student being disrespectful to other students or to other authorities, don't try to play it off as a joke or like, oh, that's just them. Please do something if you can to get that child out of the class, because now that child is in the classroom, it becomes a distraction to everybody around them, and it becomes harder for everybody around them because they feel like, because I had that mentality last year because there was multiple kids in my geometry class that were constantly acting up and out, and the teacher wouldn't say or do anything about it. So it became like oh, well, might as well just get ready when I'm walking into the class, and it shouldn't be that way. And I feel like the teachers should either be able to get rid, like if the teachers are able to get the student out of the class to remove the child, but if they're not, I feel like there should be a way that this child is separated from, not like separated from everybody else, but that they're put out of the class. That way everybody who wants to learn can learn, and they're not, and their learning isn't compromised by one or two students who choose to act up.
Jonique, let me tell you, you hit the nail on the head, because that your sentiments reflect exactly what I feel, how I feel as a teacher as well, because it literally will take one person to completely shut down a class, and there are other kids in the class, and you can actually feel and read their energy, and it's like, man, we just want to get through this lesson. This is just killing us. Okay, Ari, go ahead. What were you going to say to that?
I want to add to that. I experienced that so much in school. Every day that I walk into a certain amount of classes, I'm like, I know this person's about to cause trouble. We're about to be delayed, which is like so frustrating, because it's like, why have you like, one, why do you act like that? And two, why is nothing like Why is there no consequence? There's like no, you can tell that this student has like no change in behavior, no nothing. It's the same thing every day and it's frustrating because, like I said, when those teachers get upset, like that's it. That changes the whole energy in the class. And that, I feel like that kind of motivates the student, like that attention too, kind of motivates that student to push the limits. And I'm like, this is really frustrating. I really want to get my work done and I can't afford to fall behind either. So that really is kind of difficult.
I understand. I absolutely understand. So, and you know, it's like your sentiment. All of you are expressing the same sentiments, and amazingly, adults we feel the same way because we all we want to do, for those of us that are truly there to dedicated for you all, is that we just want to teach and we want to be able to do it with the least amount of distraction, and then we feel that we're also falling behind because we want to keep up with the curriculum, keep up with the things that we need to do for that's best for you all. So, and I do appreciate you all sharing that. Now, along the lines of that, when I think Ari, both Ari, you and Janice said, why does that person act like that? This goes for us. There's a lot of talk right now about mental health. A lot of talk about that. So, what mental health services are you aware of at your school? And because obviously something is going on that's why some of the kids need or they feed off of negative attention, right? So, have you noticed or are you aware of the mental health services that are available at your school? And Sam, let's start with you, Sam. Hit on mute.
Well, for me, the mental services will usually be the psychologist. Um, but a psychologist, you could hardly find them anywhere, and they will be there like once a week. Sometimes not even once a week. Sometimes they won't even show up. But if you are trying to express yourself or you need to tell something or you have depression or anxiety and you need to express that, there's only a few adults on the campus that can actually, you can talk to, you can trust. And you sometimes the APs, most people start trusting the APs because they'll be talking to the APs and talking to the APs, and during lunch, the APs half of the time they just tell what you talked about. They be doing they think it's usually fun or funny, but some kids I no they don't. They don't think the same. And the administrators will be talking about things like dating, couples and stuff like that in the classroom. But I remember they did a presentation about no showing affection, but they're still trying to find couples inside the sixth grade so they could talk about them. But then they're doing presentations and getting mad at the sixth graders when they show affection. Like you're telling someone, "Oh, you can't do that," then you show them and let them do that. Then they get in trouble because you see them doing that. It doesn't make sense, does it?
So, okay, and thank you for that. Thank you for that. So I'm interested that he said it once a week. So, Johnny, let me start with you. No, and I'm assuming, Sam, what you're focusing on is like either a psychiatrist, psychologist, maybe social worker. Is that what you're probably meaning? I'm just asking just for clarity. But Johnny, so tell me about are you aware of any mental health services that are available on your campus?
I know we have a school psychiatrist and a social worker, and we have multiple
Mm-hmm.
guidance counselors. However, the problem is that they're always busy doing something. Like you literally have to make an appointment to get in with the guidance counselor. Like I remember one time I walked in and I was like, "Hey, you talk to the school psychiatrist or the guidance counselor. I'm not feeling very well. I'm very stressed out." And they're like, "Oh, we can't, like, we don't have anybody available right now. They're all busy." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Is there anybody else I could talk to?" And they're just like, "No, sorry, you're gonna have to come back another time." And it's like, okay, so I've noticed that throughout the year where I've heard it from my friends too. Like they'll go up there, try to talk to a guidance counselor, and it's like, "Oh, they're busy, they're busy, they're busy, they're busy." It's like you have to make an appointment to be able to get in with your guidance counselor or your school psychiatrist. And not just that, but even though we have the services and they tell us to utilize them, it's like, okay, but also our teachers will tell us, oh, you could come to me, don't worry, it's safe with me. During, like, we'll have like a mental health week where we'll read articles about mental health, and they'll tell us about how important our mental health is, and then they won't utilize what they're saying. Like, they'll be like, oh, you could come to me, or you could talk to me, everything you say to me is safe with me. And then you find out that, they're reporting that back to, not like if they're reporting it to the guidance counselor or an AP or something, that they have to. Like, no, you hear them talking about it to another person, or it's like, oh, they told your parents about it. It's like, you told me you wouldn't do that. That's like, I trusted you with that and you said you wouldn't. Or it's like, I had one teacher last year literally give us a lecture about how she didn't care about our mental health.
Mm.
And it hurt, because it's like, they tell us that mental health is so important, that we have all these services and that we should utilize them, but it doesn't feel like they actually care about our mental health.
Hmm.
And you can tell the teachers that do, because the teachers that do, you come to them with about something going on, and they'll genuinely try to be there for you. They'll try to talk to you, try to comfort you. And then the ones who don't care will just push it off to the side and make you feel like school is more important than whatever you have going on. It's always pushing this, we don't have time for this, we don't have time for this, just worry about it later, school, 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 to the point where you're suppressing your emotions to deal
Mm.
with whatever you're doing in math today. When it's like, okay, if you just gave me a moment to get myself together and just, have a moment to think about my mental health, then maybe actually be able to focus and do things better or work better in class. But by you showing me that you don't care about my mental health and asking me to calm down or wipe your tears.
Yeah, I mean, I'm emotional for you because that's not what. Okay, your basic needs is what matters most. You're not gonna be able to learn unless your mental health is attended to. Ari, thank you, Johnny. Ari, tell me about the mental health services at your school, or are you aware of them being existent for you?
So I can't even really remember the last time that mental health was truly talked about at the school. And I'm normally really attentive when it comes to like a school system because I have a lot of difficulties with stuff like that. So I feel like it was probably mentioned about once. Other than that, it doesn't get talked about. And I don't think students, like a lot of my friends though, when we're like conversating, they'll be like, I'm so stressed. But I can tell that they don't want to talk to anybody because teachers they don't take that serious. They're just like, it's just stress, like you'll get over it. Or they take that and they see it as gossip. That's not something to gossip about. Sometimes things like that can get really serious and take a toll on students. They can lose motivation. They get upset. They don't want to do their work. They don't want to show up to class. They don't want to show up to school. And things like that to me are just like where are the people that they need to talk to, when they need it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and then this is where we see the deficit in. And I hope that people are listening to the youth. The youth are more than we can, beat as they say, beat a dead horse. The kids, when you hear from the students, it's just more impactful. Please understand what they need. I mean, I know we want to teach, 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 but if you're not addressing the mental health issues, everything ties together, which includes discipline, which includes their success rate in academics, all those things like that. So yeah, and where's that good? Okay, Angela would say, "Where's the money for mental health? Where's all this money that's supposed to go there?" Well, come on, help our children. So now going back to with mental health in terms of COVID. Now, remember, you all these from 2020 is now 2022. Is 2 years later. Um, what for us, we know as teachers, but what kind of impact has COVID had on your academics? And we're going to start off with, let's just go to when it first began. I believe it was March of 2020 when we all went on that first series of lockdowns. And I'm not sure exactly what year you were in school, but just tell me how the impact it had. Ari, I'll start with you and then we'll work our way around.
So when that COVID first hit, I was actually doing e-learning, which was super duper difficult. I had a teacher who just gave me like the hardest of time, and not only me, a lot of other students. And all I could remember me thinking to myself is, how am I going to pass this class with this teacher acting like this? And just like being online. Being online is hard. You can't get hands on with anything, you can't see it up close. Everything is just behind a screen. And I remember there would be some days where like I would just be on my computer. That would cause me to get migraines just from staring at a screen so long. And then now currently at my school, they just lifted up the mask policy. They said that when students have COVID, for you to like report it online, which I highly doubt a lot of students do, because I know when we came back from break, it was really, really bad. Like even people I knew had it, and imagine the amount of people that they were around just spreading it, spreading it, and spreading it. So then the school, they would like some days I'll be in class and they'll the office will call, and they'll also send an email to the teachers, and they'll just be like, y'all got to get out the classroom. Someone tested positive for COVID, and they'll move us to somewhere in the auditorium, and we can't continue our learning anymore. Or it'll just a whole bunch of stuff like that. So it was like really impactful and still is. In one of my journalism classes, my teacher every day will hand us wipes to wipe off the desk. So there's some people being cautious, some people not. Some it'll be a little bit enforcement of a policy, and then they'll cut back. So they're just moving back and forth in between all that stuff, and it's confusing. So, and it makes it more difficult because the more people that have it, less people are out, teachers are out, there's no one there, and just it's a lot.
Overall, makes it a stressful situation. Johnny Carl, how was your learning and how has this affected you with the impact of the onset of COVID?
Well, I remember at the beginning, it was like nothing was working because everybody was trying to use the internet and Canvas, well, not Canvas at the time, ESB, all at the same time. So things were crashing, and the teachers were having Zooms at like certain times, and if you missed it, it was like you missed. It was like it wasn't like, oh, I'll be having a follow-up Zoom later on today. It was like, oh, your Zoom is at this time, and if you missed the notes, then you better hope you can get it from one of your classmates. And then there was like last year, there was so many people getting quarantined, and it was to the point where most like half of school was quarantined, and I was thinking that we were about to get shut down again because of all these kids that were gone. And it was just extremely stressful because it, like what Ari said, um it felt like we weren't able to properly learn in class because we were constantly moving from classroom to classroom because ours was being cleaned because somebody got COVID, or our teacher was out because they got COVID. And but with our school last year, I feel like the reason why we had as many rises as we did is because there would be times where like the kids in the front row of a classroom would get COVID and everybody up there would get quarantined, but they would never quarantine the teacher. It was like the teachers would have to go get tested and would have to literally have a positive test in order for, and even then with our school, there was teachers who were coming back and they were teaching still, even if they had positive tests, because they were just like, oh, I I need the money and stuff like that. And so it was stressful with teachers who shouldn't have been there being there, teachers who weren't there, students who weren't there, constantly having to go back because we had to refresh students, and then it was like we were constantly playing catch up.
I understand. That's a scary place to be. Sam, tell me a little bit about your how was that? How has COVID impacted your education and going back to, the year before? Tell me just a little bit about that. Got it. I think you're still on mute.
Well, for me,
There you go.
since COVID, it raised up the prices of a lot of things and rent and online school, that just crushed me. And for someone who has a short attention span, and like for me, when I'm doing tests, like my stomach hurts and I don't feel right, and to be looking at a computer all day with the quizzes and assignments that literally looks like I'm doing a test, I feel like I need to go, use the bathroom, and I take breaks. And since I have a short attention span, I would like literally be playing games the entire time. Do like one assignment, play games. And as my grades dropped, I just been ignoring it. And lucky for COVID, it still passed me to sixth grade. But if my work was not done and COVID was not a thing, I would have still been in fifth grade right now. And my attention span, is short. That's why it's better for me to like be on hands on. Someone can tell me what to do, and I don't have to be doing it like, oh no, I have to sit at the computer. Oh, I have a Zoom. I can't eat right now, and I'll be waking up. There'll be morning Zooms, normal Zooms, sometimes afternoon Zooms for the parent teachers conference, and all these Zooms, I have to be, unmuting, muting, unmuting, muting, talking in the chat, doing that, while doing this. Then I have to show my papers, then I have to type it in, and then I have to send it to the teacher. And all that to complete an assignment. And then during the Zoom, the teachers will literally stopping because, the Wi-Fi will be going out. Like I know in one class, my teacher there was a substitute, and there was online school and a substitute who was doing the Zoom. And after they were doing the Zoom, what happened was their Wi-Fi had cut out, and the whole Zoom just crashed. And once they started up a new Zoom, nobody was able to join because one code was showed.
Mm-hmm.
So when they started on new Zoom, they had to individually send every single student the code. By the time that happened, it was already time to log off of school.
Thank you, Sam.
And then when we
Look.
got back to school and all the COVID cases started rising and teachers were leaving and subs were coming, teachers were leaving and teachers were leaving, you couldn't be able to fill the gaps. Students will have to be going, oh, we have to go to the cafeteria. Oh, we gotta go to the gym. Oh, our class is split. Oh, they don't have a sub. And all that be happening. And as the price is high, some of the teachers, even if they're sick or something's happening, they have to come because rent is getting higher. Money is tight. They have to pay their bills. And most teachers, as you know, they have children. So they have to go home and support their children through school. They have to actually go to work and all that. For a teacher, it gets pretty tiring. And Miss Denise, you might know exactly what I'm talking about. And to
Yes.
be supporting children, to be doing work, to be being tired, to be teaching children and coming back to children. It gets stressful for teachers. And they say, oh, if you see something, say something. Oh, if you're feeling stressful, you can talk to somebody. What about the teachers? Sometimes the teachers need to talk to people. Sometimes the teachers need help with bills. The teachers need help. But even though our prime focus on the students, who's the one teaching the students and taking care of them?
Thank you. Thank you, Seth. That was excellent. That I know, Ari. I want you to go ahead. Ari, you're going to add an extra point, and then I want to start the process of wrapping up. Because I have one question I want to ask you all. But Ari, go ahead and share with me what your point that you're going to make.
Something else I wanted to add on to about that online school is it's common for students to cheat on a test. These teachers were not letting up on anybody. I remember I was in my Spanish class, and one day I turned my camera off because I just had to excuse myself to use the bathroom. I came back, and all I heard was this teacher like she was commenting my name in the chat. She was just like talking really loud. She was like, "Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?" And I guess I actually sent her a message before I went to the bathroom, so she didn't even check it. And I just and we were taking a test, which is probably why she was so uptight about it, but it made them so self-conscious. Like everybody was just a suspect of cheating. Like at that point, it was just students, they just thought there was nobody that actually wanted to learn or get their work done. Everybody was cheating and not doing what they were supposed to be doing, which made it hard because it's hard when you're sitting in class and the teacher's like feels like you did something, they start acting funny and stuff like that. And then also like that Wi-Fi crashing was a big thing. When the Wi-Fi crashes and everyone leaves, half of the class will only show up back. So it's just like that was super duper difficult because at that point it would just be like, okay, class is off and then there's no more lesson. All because students, didn't come back. So that took away from the students who actually came back and wanted to learn. So I was like, this is bad. That's something I never ever want to have to go back to.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just it's definitely it was a high impact, high stressful situation. I know for us as teachers as well. So just touching on the point that you all made, we want to be able to know that we're doing what we have to do to the best of our ability. But I mean, are the kids going to show up? That's that was a struggle for me, at least within the first week or two. It's like, okay, I need you to understand this is class, and that this is an actual class period that you need to be here for. So it's stressful, and especially with the Wi-Fi, I do understand that whole point, because even my Wi-Fi, I crashed a couple times teaching classes. So I understood completely with the kids. The first time you crash as a teacher, you get it where the kids are coming from. I'm like, hey, listen, this was not your fault. So what? I lost my Okay, so here's a question for you. Do you feel that it is right that FLDOE, which is the Florida Department of Education, is still requiring that you take all of these standardized tests during these times of where we are right now in the midst of COVID, and these times where a lot of absences are happening between teachers and educators? Do you think it's right that they do that? Jonique, tell me. Just give me a quick answer. Let me know.
I I'm just gonna say no, because even before COVID, I thought that the standardized testing was stupid. So
Okay, Ari.
I say no because what student is learning at the best of their ability when, like I said, there's people out, people getting quarantined, they're probably even getting sick. Just the spread of it in general was just making it difficult.
Hmm. Sam, I know you have test anxiety. You told us a little bit about it before. So so you feel that standardized tests are necessary at this time, or yes or no?
No, because most kids already have anxiety or are scared of the test as it is. And adding more tests, that's just putting more weight on their shoulders and making them more scared.
Okay, thank you. Now, this leads us into some of the current legislation. We're going to talk about legislation, and also I'm going to, for me, piggyback off of this, because I am a reading teacher, so I'm going to ask you a question of which led. This is perfect. Question about your things that you learn in school in terms of curriculum, books, things that reflect you. So there is a new legislation out there that's called the Stop Woke legislations, where they make it in such a way to simplify it as best as possible. It is a type of legislation where people are not, or teachers are not being allowed to instruct in such a way as to hurt people's feelings, and hurt specifically people who are not of color. Okay, so what are your thoughts about that? And then I'm going to follow up with a question about how does your curriculum, or how does your materials and things like that in school look to you? So what do you, first of all, what do you feel about that legislation? It's Stop Woke. I mean, tell me what you think. I mean, you're understanding the question. Let's start with you, Junie. Tell me about that.
okay, so first off, I remember when I was scrolling on Insta and I found out they were trying to pass this bill where it was like non people of color could be able to sue people of color for having to talk about like for having to hear about the past, where it's like, oh, your ancestors did this, that makes me uncomfortable, so I'm gonna sue you now. Like, that's not fair. Just because you don't want to know about your ancestors or what it did in the past, you think that makes you uncomfortable? Imagine how it makes people of color feel when they learn about, all the things their ancestors had to go through in the past because of your ancestors. We're not blaming you. We're not mad at you. We're mad at your ancestors. It also feels like there are so many bills and stuff being passed now that I think honestly goes against the First Amendment, our freedom of speech, because it feels like what we think or what we want or what we should be able to say is being suffocated by the, oh, well, it shouldn't be talked about at school, or, oh, it's not politically right, or yada, yada, yada. But all you're doing is making it to where only one person's views are able to be shown in school or talked about by the teachers.
That's you know what? Let me clap right now, because that right there was an answer that was excellent. Ari, go ahead. Tell me how you feel about this legislation that has been passed.
I really do agree with Janique. She basically said everything that I was about to say. It keeps things under wraps. Things are restricted. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sam. Just give me your 2 cents, Sam. Tell me how you feel about this. Are you aware of what it is? Go ahead and tell me.
So I'm aware of all of this, but I'm going to start off with a joke. History class is dead. So if they're going to pass this bill and history class wants to teach about Black history and they can't, then things are going to turn up, because throughout your entire life from then until now, you've been talking about Black history from your school. So they try to end that. Or now you're going to be like, oh, you're in Black History Month. Why don't we talk about Black history? And they say it makes people uncomfortable. So they say it's uncomfortable and they go sue you. But what if you feel uncomfortable because they can't talk about Black history? That's trying to say the people that are of color are still going to be better, because they don't want you to teach something where they're not included and they feel like they're being left out. And if they feel like they're being left out because they're not of color, that's not our problem, because years ago, they would have been owning us and whipping us. But they're saying we can't teach about that because blah, blah, blah. Well, what I'm saying is they don't want to teach about it because they want history to repeat itself.
Oh, wow, that's very powerful, Sam. That's very powerful. And the one thing I will say, as a reading teacher, as somebody who's an aficionado, I love history, is that you cannot hide history. No matter what, kids, you all are naturally inquisitive anyway. And no matter how you hide it, even though people say you want to hide the truth from somebody you put in a book, I still feel that you all will seek this information out. You're the tech generation. You are the generation of the social media and all these things like that, and you get information fed to you all the time, and it is out there. There's no way to hide the truth, and no matter how somebody wants to suppress it, it is always going to come out, and which is the reason why we talk about Black excellence. Okay. And so now here's what I'm going to follow up with one question, and then we're going to do my final question, which is the curriculum. Since we're talking about this woke legislation, the curriculum and things that you see in your school, do you see within your books, within your course material, things like that? Do you see yourself reflected in any of that material that you're learning in school? Just very quickly, just tell me yes or no. Janique, go ahead.
Definitely not. I feel like most of it reflects people who are not like me, people who are of the standard.
Ari, what about you?
I definitely don't see myself. Like, to me personally, I've been learning the same exact colonization story over and over again. Like, nothing new is learned. Like, I can't even, if I want to learn about myself, in my, like, people of color, like history like that, I have to go out of my way to do my own research instead of me being educated in school.
Mm, mm. Um, Sam, go ahead. Do you see yourself in any of your materials at school?
If we're speaking of people of color, no, I do not. But as you see in all the books, they're still teaching us. They're teaching about ancient Egyptians or Roman, ancient Rome. But how is it they're not talking about slavery? You have to research it, watch movies, all that, watch a documentary. But in school, if you're not able to learn about that, then that's a problem in itself. But I don't want to get too much into that. But if you're not going to teach about Black history and you're not allowed to be learning about Black history or saying that kind of stuff in class, then what's the point of Black History Month if you're not going to talk about Black history? That's like giving us like giving you something, but you can't do nothing with it. So if you're going to give us a
Thank you,
month
Sam.
and we can't do nothing with our month, then what's the point of having the month? We're just going to be celebrating ourselves, but we can't talk about it in school. We can't talk about it in class.
Mm-hmm.
The teachers can't teach us about it. Then the month that we have is worth nothing. Like when they say, oh, if you give money to everybody, then it's worth nothing. Well, if you don't talk about anything or you're not able to, use what you have, then it's worth nothing.
Right. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Johnny. Can you, both you and Ari? Johnny, you start. Tell Ari. Go ahead. I know you have a point. I'm trying to keep myself from being
I
from
just
being
want to
emotional,
say,
but go ahead.
I just want to say that it is required for you to graduate to have taken 3 history courses. When looking at the course selection sheets, you have all these, you have civics, world history, European history, but the African American history is listed as an elective. You don't get a history
Mm,
credit for that. To learn about our own people wouldn't even be counted as history. It's just counted as, oh, just a spare extracurricular activity. And even though they try to make it seem like, oh, this is being taught in schools and we've come so far, we really haven't. Because even though they haven't like segregated us away from the white people, they segregated our people, our history away from
from us.
theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
why is it that world history, learning, not world history, US history is mandatory for 11th graders, that they are made to learn about the white history, but they are so scared to teach about the black history? Why? Because they know that the moment that we start learning about our own history is the moment that we'll learn that everything that they try to teach us in these textbooks is wrong. And they just spent it a certain way to make their people seem like decent people.
Oh Lord, boy, you hit him in the gut, boy. I tell you, Ari, go ahead. Thank you, Ari. Go ahead. Add what you want to add to it.
So something I noticed is that I remember when I was in middle school, lessons about Black history were one, super short. There's nothing in the textbooks like really whatsoever. And then on top of that, every time we did learn about Black history in those small lessons, it's just a video and take notes. And I was just like, like where is this history in the textbook? Something that somebody can always go back to and open for reference. You can't see that. Like I said, you got to go on the internet, you got to look on a documentary, but it's not like right there in a book in front of you, which kind of bothered me because a lot of teachers that I had kind of avoided it in a way. Like they'd be like, just watch the video and take notes and then answer these questions. Didn't even want to talk about it. Or when I'm sitting in the classroom and it's predominantly white, they're already looking at me before they even start getting into it, because it's just that
Mm-hmm.
sense, like they feel like it's that sensitive of a topic, which it is, but it's very, like, it's important.
Absolutely, it's important. I know, Johnny. Go ahead. I know you would, but you all are amazing because I'm telling you, I was saying to myself, well, I'm gonna wrap it up around an hour, but you all, when I say go ahead, Johnny, go ahead and tell me what you're gonna
I
add to that.
just
And I
I
have
just
one
want
question
to
for you all.
I just want to add that it's like, even when they do teach us about our history, they always teach about the
Mhm.
same 3
Same.
figures: Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King Jr., and Rosa Parks, or Frederick
There
Douglass.
you
They
go.
always teach about the same figures. They don't teach us anything new. They play the same "I Have a Dream" speech They always talk about the Underground Railroad, all this stuff. They don't tell us about anything else that went on besides these four people that everybody knows about. Every
Mm-hmm.
year it's the same story over and over again. So then it's like when you
Mm-hmm.
go to all these other places, or you have your parents or your grandparents asking you, "Oh, well, do you know who blah 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 is? Or did you learn about blah blah blah?" And it's like, no, we never learned about them because all they teach us about is the same four people. So you have to go and do
Mm-hmm.
your own research just to find out about your past.
And you're absolutely right because I'm sick of it too. But to throw out there at you. So since we let's throw a couple of extra people in there since it is the end of Black History Month, but never the end of Black knowledge. Two, I want you to research if you ever get a chance. Claudette Colvin and Robert Smalls. Robert Smalls, I think if they ever made a movie about somebody, that should be the person who need to make a movie about who sailed himself to freedom by stealing a Confederate ship. So that's one. And Claudette Colvin, who came before Rosa Parks, and the only reason why they didn't want to talk about her was because she was a pregnant 15-year-old, and she did the exact same thing that Rosa Parks did, but it was taboo at the time. So it's very important that we learn our history and not just the history that they force feed. So which lets you know that they craft even crafting our history so that we are pacified into believing just a specific thing. But we got some rebels in our history too that's beyond that, and so it's very important that you all know that. So just to wrap up, you all we have really hit some hard topics. And Sam, you're amazing. We hit some hard topics. But what I want to wrap up with, I want to ask you a question since you are our future. I want to say this. What are you doing? In what ways can you, going forward, show that you are excellent, that you are bringing your own excellence to your school, to your home, to your parents, your community? What way are you going to embrace excellence as you go forth in the future? Let's start with Ari. Go ahead.
So as I feel like the excellence part, I really do try and advocate and suggest things to these teachers because I see a lot of students scared to, say something or they're having difficulties. I'm like, okay, something needs to be done differently. So just advocating for myself, making suggestions so that I have better learning and then others around me do as well. And then just staying on top of my stuff, writing things down, checking Canvas all the time because people don't like to do that, and just stuff like that.
Great. Janique, go ahead. How are you embracing your excellence?
So at our school, we have what we was called a unity league, where we strive to have unity through diversity. And just recently during Black History Month, because we were asking, what we're gonna do because Black History Month, and we found out that the school hadn't planned anything. So what we planned was a Black History Month Spirit Week, and then we planned the week with quotes and stuff like that, where there was like posters up of predominantly Black figures. And I'm not talking about, the usual that we were just talking about. I'm talking about people you've never seen before. And then we had a Black History T-shirt day, HBCU day, Black Celebrity Day, just a day to celebrate being Black and to
Mm-hmm.
show that it's not always about trauma, or it's not always about, because that's what it is. Most people, when they talk about Black people or Black history, they always talk about the trauma. They don't talk about the, hey, we used to be kings and queens, or hey, we used to do this or that and got all these awards, or the first Black person to do yada yada yada. They don't talk about that. All they talk about is,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, we used to be slaves. We used to go do this and that. Why don't we took that time to lift our people up and just show, and not just to Black people, because like what we had was a Black and Brown Day, where
Mm-hmm.
in order to show, like if you were Black, you would wear Black, and if you were um a person who is not African American or African or Black, you would wear brown to show solidarity, just to show that, hey,
Mm-hmm.
we're all together, we're unified.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's just like some of the things that we have going on at our school. And yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you're a part of that. Sam, very quickly, how are you, as the only black male on our panel, going forth and showing that you are embracing your excellence, going on to world in your community, in your home, in your school?
Well, when I grow up, I'm planning to be a lawyer so I could stop this injustice. But after Nick said, we only talk about the negative. What about the fact that Mansa Musa was the richest person that ever lived and he was black? Or the fact that we were the mummies, we were the pharaohs, we were the Egyptians, because Egyptians in Africa, and we were Africans, and the Egyptians were Africans, they were African Americans. But when they make mummies, the mummies are white people, or they're not us, like they're not our skin color. So the fact that we're coming up and we're the future, but we're still allowing people to steal our fame. Like the first person to make a car was a black person. The person who invented this traffic light was a black person. The person who invented the refrigerator was a black person. The person who made the first phone was a black person. They're saying that slaves had to do all the white people's work. Well, have you ever talked about how the same slave was the one who invented the first? Or that same slave who did everything for their master ended up being better than their master and richer? Or how we succeed, we're breaking barriers, we're doing things that were never thought of us. And years ago, just for going to school, we would have been beat. But now we're going to school, passing college, doing great things. But we're still talking about how we used to be bad people, about the hood and things like that. How we're still doing bad things. And well, during Black History, we're talking about slavery. Why don't we talk about the things that we did right? Like we wouldn't be able to be on Zoom if that man did not create the first phone. We would not be able to be eating cold food if a black man didn't create the first refrigerator. We wouldn't even be
Refrigerating
able,
cooling system.
and we wouldn't have painting because art came from Egyptian, which is Africa. And we're the ones who started making art. And people started stealing our glory and taking that away. And as you can see, Rome, which is where white people came from, they were stealing our ideas and they were stealing the Etruscans' ideas and using them for themselves when they didn't think of anything. And they're the ones who started slavery. And they would, ma'am? And they would,
What I
do
want you to
all
do,
that. So that's why I'm going to be a lawyer, so I could stop
there
talking
you
about
go.
the bad and make sure there's enough justice so in the future we can talk about the good times.
There you go, Sam. That's what I'm talking about. I want you to do it. And Sam, you will be a lawyer. Let me claim it now, because you can argue a point. All right, all right. Now listen, listen, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you so much. I feel personally blessed to have had this conversation with you all. Just listening to it from your point of view has just been absolutely awesome. I think this was the best way to wrap up our entire month of Black Excellence, because we love the kids. We would not be here if it weren't for you. So we want to tell you a great big thank you so much. And I want for everyone who is paying attention, everyone who is listening, I think that this a particular program that we did tonight should be required watching, required viewing for all educators, all administration, even people up in Tallahassee need to be listening to this. If you got an in, please forward it to them. Please reach out to us and join us at the sunshineeducationcoalition.org and www.sunshineeducationcoalition.org. And we will see you very soon. Thank you again. Have a wonderful evening. Be blessed. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you.